why gay men fear healthy relationships. Hey guys, Michael Pizzulo here, psychotherapist in West Hollywood, working mostly with gay men. So one of the biggest plights for gay men these days is finding a relationship, often one of the romantic type, but often, friendships as well. But what I think we see time and time again are guys who say they want connection and relationship, but seem to do a lot to back away and actually avoid it. And it seems like there's a push-pull internally of wanting to connect, but being fearful of connection. And I think it's time that we really unpack what this fear is about. So I want to give you 4 reasons why I think that gay men are often fearful of relationships. The first one being there's an overemphasis on self-sufficiency. So I think growing up as a young gay man, closeted gay man, there was often this sense of I have to do things for myself. I'm expecting rejection socially, or I'm experiencing rejection. And so rather than being accustomed to building community, relying on others, developing intimate relationships, I have to not only hide parts of myself, which is the opposite of connecting and intimacy, but I also have to become more accustomed to this idea that I have to rely on myself. And self-sufficiency can be great and lead to lots of success in all sorts of ways. But when it comes to a relationship where I have to focus on being dependent as well as independent, I think that's where some gay men struggle. The next would be really just the lingering internalized homophobia. I think we all grow up in this world where we're fed negative messages about being gay to some degree or the other, right? And it can lead to this sense of feeling less than and unworthy. And I think a lot of gay men, even if they're out and proud and living their best life, still really harbor this sense of just not being good enough and just being unworthy. And so even when they do find great marriages or relationships or friends, there's a part of them that feels unworthy of the connection they're receiving. And this leads them to back away from it, avoid it, or even sabotage it altogether. The third thing I would say is the overemphasis, kind of like the Grindr Effect of it all. Meaning that I do think that in gay culture, we overemphasize and overprioritize instant gratification rather than long-term investment in our relationships. And both can be great, don't get me wrong, but I think we're very accustomed to, getting on apps, finding a quick and easy hookup or even friend or relationship or whatever it is, either where I live or where I'm traveling to or whatever the case is, rather than, meaningful long-term relationships where we are showing up for one another over and over again, where we work through conflict and, have back and forth and all those sorts of things that deep, intimate relationships bring. And instead, there's this emphasis more on meeting new people, finding fast friends, and that sort of thing. And I think there's a balance that can be struck here, but I do think that gay men tend to overemphasize the instant gratification, the short-term relationship over the long-term one. And then the last thing I would say really is the emotional detachment that a lot of gay men experience, which I think is really a trauma reaction. I know when we think of trauma, we often think of, surviving a war or some horrible, horrific, acute incident that occurred to us. But I think that a lot of gay men are emotionally detached to some degree or the other because they grew up in a world where they had to shut down a lot of their feelings. So I think what ends up happening is a lot of gay men struggle to really know what they feel. They often feel kind of like disconnected or numb or foggy or hazy. They often get the sense that they should be more emotive to a certain circumstance, but instead they feel kind of just detached or even dissociated. And I think what happens with all of this is that our emotions are information, right? They help us anchor and they help us connect. And so if I'm struggling to feel, then I'm struggling to really have my internal compass to tell me what I want to do. And I think a lot of gay men, for that reason, who experience this emotional detachment, end up in relationships where they're not even sure if they want to be in them, or they end up in friendships where they're not quite sure if they're satisfied by them because they don't really know how they feel, or their feelings kind of come and go, and sometimes they're clear, sometimes they're foggy. So I think this emotional detachment or emotional numbness that a lot of gay men live with can also be a huge hindrance in them wanting healthy relationships or even knowing how to navigate them. So those are my thoughts. Those are 4 clear themes that I think gay men often experience that make them hesitant of healthy relationships. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you've experienced things like this as well in your own life, in your own relationships, or if there are other things or roadblocks that you've encountered. Love to hear your thoughts as always. Please, like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. And if you want to book a call with me to talk about working with me as a therapist or as a coach, I will put the link in the description. And as always, I appreciate you all for watching. So thanks, guys.